Hi, and welcome, and thanks for being here. We're going to get right to it this afternoon. I'm Bill Schaefer of Growing Bolder, and we have got a great guest today, somebody who you will find fascinating, first of all, because he is 102 and live streaming with us today, but also because he is a movie star, a TV star, a Broadway star, a celebrity, and has been since the 1940s. You're going to love this guy. He's wonderful. But before we do that, I have a little bit of an announcement. This is our final regular episode of Growing Bolder Now. Our Fridays together like this have been amazing, motivating, inspiring, and even life-changing. We've had incredible guests, but we're not stopping to give you less. We want to give you even more. We at Growing Bolder, we're constantly looking for more and better ways to inspire, more ways to connect and engage, because the truth is we are all in this life together, and it's together that we help each other through the tough times. We help each other through the pain and the heartache that comes with life, and we learn how to maximize, to create, and really enjoy the wonderful times too. There is so much more to Growing Bolder than you may even know. Have you seen what our TV show is like? How about our radio show, podcast, digital digest, interviews with rock stars, movie stars, authors, experts, celebrities, and thought leaders? It's all there for you to see at growingbolder.com. Sign up to be an insider, no charge, and you get access to all of it. Our shows, our tools, our resources. You will love being part of a movement that sees age as an asset, age as a good thing, and that this is a great time of life. Join the movement by going to growingbolder.com to check it out. Just go to growingbolder.com. And I do want to say that we will continue to have interviews like we're about to bring you now, just maybe not on, the every Friday schedule, but you'll still be notified when they happen. Maybe there'll be more than just a few a week, but do keep an ear out. Make sure you like us on Facebook to make sure you follow everything that happens as we ramp up to serve you even better here on Growing Bolder. Now, we've got some regulars who pop in here all the time, and we love seeing that. Patricia Bishop here from Stafford, Texas. Always probably one of our most ardent viewers who's here all the time. It wouldn't be a Friday without you, Patricia. We love having you here, and we hope you love what's to come. Janice McCabe from Philadelphia. Carol Kessler is here, enjoys the personal touch, and enjoys doing this together. We will keep bringing you interviews as well, Carol, so do stay in touch and stay tuned with us. Velma Ostman from Mountain Iron, Minnesota. Wonder what it's like in Mountain Iron. I bet it's beautiful. So we've got a good crowd here with us today, and we happen to have an absolutely terrific guest who you're going to love. All right, who is it? Well, it's this guy.
And I'm Nehemiah Persoff. Some people say I'm growing older because I'm 102, but I say I'm growing bolder. I've just written a book. And so I'm on this program. Thank you.
Can you believe it? Just a little taste of who's about to come. The book, and write this down. The book is called The Many Faces of Nehemiah. Nehemiah Persoff. His story is truly amazing. It ought to be a major motion picture, and maybe one day it will be, because from him we can learn. And just to give you an idea of the breadth of his career, here are just a few highlights that will absolutely trigger some memories for you. Watch this.
White House writer Nehemiah Persoff.
Hola, Jose. Fernando. Glad to see you. Okay.
How was the draw?
The first bull, perfect, very comfortable.
Oh, they're saying that Manolete is going to be
We
the number.
have no time.
I might look for him. Start looking now. But I won't find him, Manolo. You know that. I have to look because there's nothing else for me.
I tell you that you sang beautifully. I never heard you sing better.
I was terrible, I know it. My voice was shaking like my knees.
So what? Don't you know that it's good luck to have a bad dress rehearsal? You ask anybody in show business.
You pull over. Take me to the garden.
Duly recorded on this ship's log is the sailing time, course to destination, weather conditions, temperature, longitude, and latitude. But what is never recorded in a log is the fear that washes over a deck like fog and ocean spray. Fear like the throbbing strokes of engine pistons.
They're cops. They'll kill you if you run.
I didn't do nothing.
I didn't do nothing.
Or I arrested the wrong man. Well, if I did.
Matty there yet? Okay, give him a drink. I'm on my way in. Gentlemen.
Mr. Peters, I wonder if you're familiar with the New York State Penal Code, Section 1897?
I haven't read any good books lately.
Do you know what, Bonnie? I'm sorry for you.
We better call the cops. The guy's flipped.
Thank you, fellow opera lovers. It's been 10 years since I elected myself president of this organization. And if I say so myself, you made the right choice.
Unbelievable. Can you believe all of that? How many of those shows did you recognize? What a powerful actor. What a great This is amazing. I'm Bill Schaefer. This is Growing Bolder. And now we are going to meet this very special person. Over 40 feature films, well over 300 television roles, many plays on Broadway. And we are lucky enough to have him with us. He is a national treasure. He is an inspiration for anyone who's had a rough time in life, anyone who feels like they're different or don't quite fit in, or who struggles with their beliefs and who wants to contribute to making life better for others. And he just happens to be 102 years old. And I don't know what you did this year, but he wrote his spellbinding autobiography, which we will tell you more about. But let's say hi to Nehemiah Persoff. How are you, Nehemiah?
I'm great after this introduction, especially. I'm fine.
Oh, man, those clips, looking back over that, are so versatile. You are so in touch with emotions and feelings. Those were 15 different characters. It couldn't possibly be the same guy. What was it like to be a character actor rather than like being the leading guy? In a way, was that a better way to have a career?
It all depends on you. Some people like more work and more adventure, and in that case, being a character actor is good because you get a chance to play all kinds of people. Whereas if you're stuck in a particular role, you do the same thing over and over and over again. You get a lot of money, but not a lot of joy.
Now, I'm going to have to say here that of all the characters you've played, I'm going to guess that the most interesting, the most compelling, the most amazing is Nehemiah Persoff. It's you. Have you ever met someone who was like you at 102? I mean, you're on the computer. My parents are still trying to figure out the VCR, but you're bright, you're witty, you're curious, you're wonderful.
I better quit while I'm ahead.
Have you ever met, I was kind of curious about that. We were talking about who was the Growing Bolder. We're always talking, Nehemiah, to people of all different ages about, the rest of your life can be the best of your life. Age is not a disease, it's an opportunity. And yeah, we do have a lot of hardships and things that go with it, but it can also be such an enriching, rewarding time. Is that the way it's worked out for you?
Exactly. Yes.
We all think that you would look back and say, "No, Bill, I'm sorry. My most amazing part of my life were the years that I was working." The time when you were busy. I guess probably for 5 decades, you were as busy as any actor there ever was. But yet, this time of your life is still one of your favorites?
Exactly.
That's wonderful. Please go on.
You have to ask me the question again, because at 102, I don't always focus.
All right. Are you sure you're not talking about me now? Because I'm the one they say has the focus problem. When you look back and you think of the different parts of your life, and we'll get into a little, it seems like there's the part where you were growing up because you ended up moving from one country to another. There was the working part where you were, man, the 5 decades probably went by like this when you were acting. Then you become this painter, and now you're this writer of autobiographies. You've written a play. Is this part of your life, being 102, is this just as rewarding as any other part of your life?
Absolutely. Now, you may think that acting should have been my forte, should have been the thing that I really was interested in. And when I was an actor, that was my life. Acting, that's all. But because of an illness, I happened to end up on the central coast of California. And here I got involved in painting, and suddenly it grabbed me. I met with a group who picks a place to go every Wednesday, and we go there, and suddenly the 20 people that carry blank canvases come up with pictures, paintings that are so exciting. And having seen that, I began to paint, and my garage, the car was outside, and the garage became my studio. And the lights could be on there sometimes in 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It just grabbed me, painting. And there was nobody to stand over me and say, "Hey, there's no time, another take, don't take, da, 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 da." I was the boss. It was just me and the canvas and the paintbrush. And it was a great 30 years, great.
So life in your 80s, 90s, and now 100s, you're just as passionate as you ever were. You're learning new things. You're having new experiences. You're doing things like this. That's fantastic.
Thank God for that. Yes.
We all sort of think celebrities are always celebrities and always knew they were going to be, but what an amazing and inspiring story you are. Born in Jerusalem, you come to America, you settle in Brooklyn at the age of 10. What did you think? What was it like to come to a new country at that age?
Well, I have to tell you who the man was, or the boy was, that came to America. I was born in Israel at a time when Israel was not born yet, Palestine. And it was a place of turmoil. It was the beginning of Zionism, and new people from Europe who were Jewish people in Europe who were sick and tired of being picked on and pogromed and spat on. These people had enough. And they all went to Israel with a passion, with a purpose. They were new people looking for a new life to rebuild the country and rebuild themselves, because living in the diaspora outside of Palestine, we had to find ways to live. And as a result of that, we were not allowed to practice any craft or anything. We were just storekeepers and sellers and buyers. And that was not good for a nation. So these people came over with ideas on how to rebuild the nation and how to rebuild the place. And so as a boy, I was exposed to Muslims, Jews, Christians, people from all over the world, especially the young pioneers who came with a tremendous, tremendous drive. So at 10 years old, with all of these ideas in my head, all of this idealism, I went to New York to Williamsburg, New York, during the terrible depression. The difference was so great. It was from clean water to dirty water. I hated New York, and I hated the people in it. They had no ideas. They had no idea of what the history of the Jewish people was. They had no idea of that. And so I fought my way through that. And eventually, because the depression, and my father earned $15 a week, wasn't enough to support the family. My oldest brother was a charming guy. He could tell stories. He could play any musical instrument. He could dance. He could wrestle. He could do anything. But in Israel, he was a shepherd in Galilee. And when he came to New York, he just could not fit in with the 9-to-5 life. So he never helped the family financially. But my other brother was an electrician, and he earned $25 a week, and he helped my mother and father. And we came through the depression because of him. And when I had to choose between an academic high school and a trade school, I chose a trade school. At trade school, I didn't do so good because my hands are not able to do the things that a worker should be able to do. So I struggled through years I hated my work. Eventually, I got a job in the New York subway, which was not bad. But there, at a party where I imitated the people in the subway because it was so funny. They were not New Yorkers. They were from other parts of the country, railroad workers. And I'm sorry, I lost my thought. Where was I?
No, you were imitating your coworkers in the subway, and they're saying, "Hey, this guy's pretty funny."
Thank you. So I used to imitate these guys at parties, and a girl came over to me. I didn't know her. She said, "You know, you're not a subway worker. You're an actor." Now that was exactly what I wanted to be inside, but I wouldn't take the chance of saying I don't want to be. So I said, yeah, I'd like to. She said, would you like to go to an acting school? I said, I don't have money. I need a scholarship. She said, come with me. I know the girl who works at this theater school. So at the interview with the girl, she asked me if I could put a light up at the end of the hall. And I said, yes. And I gave them the light, and they gave me a scholarship for a year. In the class, there was a guy who was a part-time director on Broadway, and he also taught my class. And in the class, he asked me to do an improvisation where I took off on a guy in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, who was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. When he came from a baseball game, we were not allowed to see it because the broadcasts of Brooklyn Dodgers games in Brooklyn was not broadcast. They wanted the people to see the game at the stadium. So I'm sorry, I'll catch it. So when Kibby, his name was Kibby, when he saw the game and the Dodgers won, he'd come around the corner with, hey! Everybody knew the Dodgers won, but when they lost, his nose would scratch the floor. He was so, don't. I was again, never mind. I don't want to talk about it. I did an improvisation in class for this part-time teacher, part-time director, in which I imitated this Brooklyn Dodger fan. And the teacher came to me after and said, where'd you get the material? Who writes your material? I said, nobody. That really happened. That's a guy I knew. He said to me, would you like a part in a Broadway play? I said, yeah. He said, come to the theater tomorrow and we'll sign you in. And I got the job. It was The Eve of St. Mark by Maxwell Anderson at the Belasco Theater. They signed me up. And I could not make up my mind to quit the subway. It was a $32 a week job. That was an awful lot of money for me. But I did not have the nerve to decide to become an actor and not sure maybe the show will not run. Then I'm out in the street. What will I do? So I couldn't make up my mind, and for 3 weeks we rehearsed back and forth until I used to go to work at 12 midnight, get up at 8, go home, take a shower, eat breakfast, and go to the theater and rehearse from 6 to 6. Finally, one day the writer who was chosen for the job came over and he put his arms around me. Maxwell Anderson did, and he said, "I can't guarantee that this show will be a hit because I've had all kinds of plays on Broadway. Some were hits and some were not, and I never knew it. I never knew whether they would be a hit or not until we opened, and the critics said it's okay, and then it was a hit. But I never knew ahead of time. You have to decide." I said, "I'm sorry, I can't decide." He said, "Well," and he fired me. And that was the beginning of my acting, though. I got a acting job when I was 19, and I had a taste of the great life. But at the end, when he asked me if I could choose to be an actor or a worker, and I decided to be a worker.
Isn't it, so many people, Nehemiah, their dream is to have the opportunity that you did just at that point. Yet it almost, it fell to you, and then you weren't really sure if that's what you wanted to grab. And you touched on a couple themes I'd love to get a comment on from you. One, fitting in. You come from Jerusalem to Brooklyn. Everything's different. It's uncomfortable. It's a different mindset. It didn't sit well with you, but yet that's where you were. You had to figure out how to get along. Do you think that it's at all similar to the immigrant experience of today? Because that's such a hot button issue that we all wonder what's going on with this country. It doesn't sound like it was all that dissimilar to what you went through.
It wasn't dissimilar. It was the same. And as a young man, I had to try to find a way that I could navigate through this life.
And isn't it interesting that the subway led you to Broadway? And I know that after Broadway, you served in the U.S. Army in World War II. And the next thing you know, you found yourself at the acting studio.
Yes, yes. I'll tell you, I've always wanted to be an actor. But when I went to the Army, I had the union card from Actors Equity, which is our union. And I also had a card of Local 150 of the Electricians Union. And they asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm an electrician." I didn't say I was an actor. I could have had a cushy job in the Army and being an actor, but I said, "I'm an electrician." And they put me in radar and so forth. There was a lot of time at Fort Monroe, Virginia, a lot of time there. So the recreation officer said to me, "Why don't you organize an acting group and lead them?" I said, "Fine." And I advertised in the paper. And 2 lieutenants turned up, 2 captains, 3 colonels' wives, 1 corporal. And we rehearsed. We read together the first time. And at the end, one of the ladies who was the colonel's wife said, "Why don't we go to my place and have a drink?" And I started going to my barracks and said, "Mr. Corporal, come on, Corporal, come with us." I said, "I can't. How can I go with you?" She said, "Come on, it's okay." I went there. I had too much to drink. They had to put me in a Jeep. They took me back to my barracks, put me in the wrong bed, and I went to sleep. In the morning, I woke up and everybody was on the field already, but I was still in bed. Nobody bothered me. Nobody bothered me from that day on, months after in the Army. Nobody bothered me doing nothing because I knew some important people.
So
that's when I decided that I would be an actor.
Right. Talk about being around important people. I know that on Broadway, you acted with people like Charles Lawton, John Garfield, Boris Karloff, Julie Harris. When did you start to think, well, okay, maybe this isn't a hobby. Maybe this isn't something I do when I'm not in the subway. When did you start to think this is going to be my career?
I'll tell you exactly. When I came out of the Army, there was a GI Bill which paid for people to study in college or whatever they want to study. And when again, what was I thinking?
This is when you finally decided that you were going to be a full-time actor, and I think we're getting into where you were with Lee Strasberg and
Oh,
Elia
yes, yes, yes,
Kazan.
yes. When I came out of the Army, I thought I'd be an actor, and so I tried this and that, and I went through the difficulties that a beginning actor has. No jobs, just humiliation constantly. So I stay with me. I went, I started acting here and there until finally Elia Kazan, the most successful director on Broadway, who was of a group that practiced what's called an method acting, which is naturalistic acting at a time when acting was still declamatory. Let me explain for a moment. I don't want to get too technical, but I'll explain to you. In the old days, when actors were on stage, the stage was lit with candles. So it was hard to see, really. The actors had to put on wigs and fine makeup that's readable from out front. They couldn't be heard because of no microphones, and they had to face front so that they can be seen and heard way up there in the second balcony. When electricity came in and the stage was lit and we had microphones, then it was a different story. And writers came along who wrote in actors behaving in a naturalistic way, not in a recitation, bombastic way, but in a way, you know what I mean? Brando, Brando way, Marlon Brando. So
you deciding to become an actor full time.
Yeah, thank you very much. So when I came, in the summertime, I found a friend of mine on the street. I met him on the street, and he said, you know, Elia Kazan is organizing a theater group called the Actors Studio. Would you care to audition for it? I said, yes. I went and I auditioned with a show that I did in the summer theater where I played a classic part in George Bernard's show, The Devil's Disciple. It was the kind of part that I would never be cast in, but I did it up in the Boondocks in the summer theater. And I came to New York and I did the audition for Kazan. At the end of the audition, Kazan said, why did you pick a classic? I said, I don't know, I just, that's what I do. He said, we'll let you know. And I knew what that meant, man, forget it. If somebody says, we'll let you know, forget it. I went home, and a few days later, I found a card from the Actors Studio, invited me to come to the first meeting. I was so excited. This was a tremendous step forward with Kazan's particular group. At the meeting, I saw Marlon Brando, Garfield, other people whose names escape me at the moment. And Kazan spoke, and he said, I invited you guys because of all of the thousands of actors I auditioned. You guys are the cream of the crop. You are the future, and I want to work with you. I don't have to teach the actors how to act. When I act with them, I want to teach them at the studio. I left that place walking 10 feet up in the air. I was in the Actors Studio with John Garfield, Frank Chatone, Marlon Brando. And that's how it was. That's really started me to be a serious actor when I got there, okay.
Well, we're talking with Nehemiah Persoff. He's 102 years old. And first of all, he wasn't just in some films and he wasn't just an actor. He was in over 40 feature films. You were in some of the greatest and most memorable films ever. On the Waterfront with Brando, Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe, pretty much every TV show you can name from the golden age, Twilight Zone, Untouchables, Naked City, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, here's with John Wayne, Mission Impossible, Wild Wild West, Barney Miller, MacGyver, Star Trek Next Gen, Doogie Howser. You were even in Gilligan's Island. Did you have a sense doing all this that, hey, I'm doing pretty well here?
No, never that. Sadly, I have to tell you that I never got over thinking that I'm living in a fiction world, that it could stop at any time. Anytime the phone could stop ringing, as it did when I was 70 years old later on. But from about 50 to 70, more than that, 30, 40 years, I worked constantly, but I never lost the fear that one day the phone would stop ringing. I was never sure.
And this is incredible, folks. This is from someone who, you know what the image of Hollywood is like. You audition, and you get rejected. Did you ever, your batting average must be higher than any other actor in the history of entertainment, of Hollywood. You have been in so many films, so many TV. You worked pretty much nonstop for 5 decades. Some actors don't even last 5 weeks. And most, as you pointed out, live in fear that the role you have may be the last role you ever get. So in an industry full of rejection, how did you steel yourself to push forward?
I'll tell you. The actors in those days used to make the rounds, so to speak. They go to agents' offices, they go to other people that can help them. And I did the same. I went to, I don't want to tell you the name of the agent, but I went to his office. He was a big agent. And I asked to see him, and the girl in the office talked to him, and he said, "Wait, I'm busy now. I'll call him in when I'm free." I sat there from about 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 4 hours. He didn't call me. Then the door opens and out he comes, ready to go out. And I said, "Excuse me." I told him I wanted to talk to him. He said, "I have no time. I'll see you another time." I said, "But I have no time." And he went out. And I was so humiliated. When you're rejected as an actor, if you're a carpenter and you build a chair and they don't like the chair, that's fine. It's the chair. It's not you. But when an actor goes in and he's turned down, it's because of his ethnicity, because of his height, because of his weight, because of his person, because of his heart and soul, because of who he is. And you are totally rejected, and it's so painful. I never, ever did that again. And I decided that if I'm going to be an actor, I have to be good, I have to study, and I have to get free, I have to understand what acting is. And I studied for about 10 years before I got into the actor studio. But when I got into the studio, it was incredible.
Nehemiah, what you said is something that we all relate to. We're all terrified of rejection. We all live in fear of being hurt. And sometimes it stops us from doing what we really love, what we want to do. You could have said, "Look, I'm not even from this country. This is not for me. I'm just going to be an electrician," and plodded your way through life. But you risked the chance that rejection would happen again in order to do what you really wanted to do. How do we put a little Nehemiah in our lives so that we don't frighten ourselves out of doing something we're meant to do?
It's hard for me to say. I don't know how to advise anybody, because I feel that everything that I've done was done by accident. Not my doing, but by accident. How? I don't know, but I cannot tell. I'll tell you, there are some people who want to be actors who ask me, "What do I do next?" And I say to them, if you can possibly do anything else, do it, because it's going to be very tough. It's a competition as an actor is so great. You have to have a thick skin. Unfortunately, that's a sad case because the actor has to be sensitive. He has to be sensitive to people. At that time, I could talk to people and get vibes from them and know exactly what's going on inside them. There's a sensitivity that you have to be an actor. And when you have to go through the horrible rejection, I say, don't be an actor unless there's nothing else you can do. If you feel that that's the only thing in the world that you can do, that you hate everything else, that's be an actor.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that life itself comes with so much rejection that we do need to learn to be like you and kind of like grit our teeth, put our shoulder forward. And they may have been accidents that got you where you were, but it's because you were there. It was because you were brave enough to go to the actor's studio, to be a part of the machinery there, to step up and try to do your best. So it really wasn't an accident. It was an accident as a result of a lot of hard work. So you're doing what so many actors dream of, right? You're working, you're getting parts, you're constantly at it, getting yourself better. What was it that eventually made you stop?
Stop what?
Acting, working.
Oh, that's another story. I'd like to save that for a little later because I want to tell you something about the feeling that we had in the actor's studio.
Please do. Is it your like camaraderie and that team feeling?
Yes. Great teamwork. There were two groups when we started the studio. One group was people who established themselves on Broadway, who knew the characters they were playing. And there was another group of beginners. And the beginners group was Eli Wallach, Julie Harris, Maureen Stapleton, other people that became stars. And sorry again.
So this is the team feeling that you got from the actor's studio when you guys.
Yes. So on the very first day at the studio, Eli Kazan was the head of our group. He was such a brilliant, exciting man to listen to. And when all of us were so concerned that we would not make the grade, we all tried the hardest we could to listen, to understand, and to produce so that Kazan would use us as actors. We sat there concentrating, and the first exercise that he gave us was what's called sense memory of your senses. For instance, if it's a very hot room, you have to be able to give the people the idea that it's hot. If it's cold, if it's this, if you have a pain in the shoulder and so forth, you have to remember the senses. And so they give you exercises of doing something without the object. If you're going to drink coffee, maybe you drink coffee in a cup that's not there, you just hold it and it's very hot. Or it's this or that. Don Hanmer, an actor, was assigned the job of peeling a banana. And we were all very intent on watching him to see, and he peeled the banana, that one and that one. At that moment, Cloris Leachman, who was in the habit of coming, later on we found out was in the habit of coming in late, finishing her breakfast, came in eating a banana. She walked around the group and around the back and sat behind Don Hanmer, who was doing the exercise. And while he was doing the exercise, he looked at Kazan and said, "My God, you know, I can smell it. I can smell the banana. I really can." And we all, yes, I do too. We all felt, wow, we have done so much. We are actors. We can feel. And Cloris says, I can smell it too. And somebody looked and said, "Oh, you're eating a banana."
That's fantastic. You know, before she passed, Cloris was on with us here. And she was, the day we had booked her for her interview, she had a dental appointment that she forgot about. So she talked to us while she was sitting in the dentist chair. You can hear the drill and everything. She was so wonderful. But I think the point that you're making is that in life, where we go, it's the people around us that make us better. You know, we all are greater than the sum of our parts. And I think that works aging wise too. That's what we have here in Growing Bolder. It's a bunch of people who are looking at life and saying, okay, maybe it's not time to fade away. Maybe it's just time to band together so we can all help each other realize how much more there is to still experience. I mean, isn't that what you've done?
I guess so.
Do you want to let's get to where you had so many roles and you worked constantly. When did they stop? Why did you back out?
Yeah. When I was about 70, the phone stopped ringing after being busy so much. And I never liked being unemployed. Previously, through the years, I did a one-man show by telling the stories of Shalom Aleichem, which is the Jewish writer whose story Fiddler on the Roof was based on. And
we're talking about how the Hollywood career kind of came to a halt.
Oh, yeah. I told the stories of Shalom Aleichem. I won't go into detail of that, but anyway, it was a great hit, and I won awards in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. In San Francisco, my producer called me and he said, Nicky, why don't you come to San Francisco? They're giving out awards. You may get it. You were nominated. I said, no, I don't want to go there. Why should I go there and sit down and hear a lot of people talk and then go off without the awards? He said, don't worry about that. You and your show are the only ones nominated. I went and got the show, and the show was a great hit. Anyway, when I was 70 and the phone stopped ringing, I decided to do another show. I did the show. I worked on it for about 8 months and then rented a theater in San Diego, and a director and people worked the box office and so on. I worked hard, and it was my money that supported the play. And on opening night, in a 600-seat house, I got 11 people. Not opening night, but I'm sorry, preview night. 11 people. That's a terrible rebuff. Terrible. So after the show, I went to have dinner with my director, and in the middle of the conversation, I could not form words. I wanted to say something, but the words that came out were different sounds. That he slapped me around a little bit, and after 30 seconds, I came to and I could speak again. I got scared, so I called my friend, my good friend, who happened to be my doctor. It was 11:30 at night. And he said, Nicky, you've had a TIA. It's a minor stroke. I want you to go home right away. Leave everything behind. And I did. I left everything behind. And I went home. And at home, he told me to go to a specialist. The specialist said, get out of Los Angeles. I said, why? I live on 2 acres and I have plenty of a big swimming pool. I love it there. He says, leave Los Angeles. I don't want you to be tempted to work. And I happened by accident to be called by a friend to come and visit the central coast of California. We went there, we saw a house, we bought the house and so forth. And so, where was I heading?
Well, you were talking about, basically why you stopped acting in Hollywood, and I think you very clearly explained that, I think, Nicky, when any of us have an event like that, I think in our own minds, it's only natural that we start to think, maybe this is the beginning of the end. Maybe I'm on my last leg here, right? And you were only 70. That's
right. So at 70, I came to this place and we went for a walk, and I met a guy who was a painter, Art Van Rijn, a wonderful guy, great painter. And he invited me to paint with his group. They had a group that met every Wednesday. They were called the Wednesday Irregulars. Irregulars because you can come or not as you want to. I joined them, and we decided, the group of people together in his studio, we decided to go up to the mountaintop and paint that. And at the mountaintop, they were still talking and talking till finally talking stopped. And a concentration hit that mountain. You couldn't cut it with a knife. And after 2.5 hours, we had lunch and a critique. The actors would critique each other's paintings. But what impressed me most was these 25, 30 people who had just blank canvases in front of them before, now had 25 canvases with beautiful artistic creations. And I thought, wow, wow. Slowly, after a few weeks, I became so taken by it that I took the car out of my garage and painted there, as I said before, I think, until 2, 3 in the morning. And that became, I didn't want to go down to Los Angeles. I finished with that. That was over. It was so much more comfortable to be an artist with just you and the canvas without having hundreds of people dependent on you if you come through. So,
we're talking with Nehemiah Persoff here, who at 102 is looking back over his incredible life. And I think the common thread there, Nehemiah, is that you've always been fascinated, like the rest of us are, in exploring humanity. It's what you did in your characters. It's why your characters are so endearing. They all have they all have heart to them. They're real. Mike, let's show some of Nehemiah's sketches too, because yeah, you've done a million great landscapes, but look at your sketches. This was you as little Bonaparte, little Napoleon in Some Like It Hot. Just incredible. And you did a lot of yourself in characters. Look at this from Taxi Driver on the waterfront when you were the taxi driver. These aren't just drawings. You're looking for the essence of what makes people unique and what makes them fit in. This is you as Yentl's father. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Do you think that's it, Nehemiah? Do you think that this little boy coming from Jerusalem to Brooklyn, trying to find an identity, trying to figure out why people seem so different, was just looking to fit in?
I was looking to fit in, but the circumstances around me all mitigated, all brought on what my life was, because my father was an amateur actor in Russia when he was 17, 18. Before the revolution, they got out and they took a boat to Istanbul. There they all got off and formed a theater company that acted in French, and they did a Molière play. There was a French colony there. After a while, they walked to Syria, to Damascus. There they formed a group and played the same Molière piece, The Miser. My father played the lead. I have a photograph of him in 1903. They worked there and then eventually walked to Palestine, and there they started the first Hebrew-speaking theater in modern-day Israel. My mother was one of the small part players. She was a comedian and had us in stitches when we were growing up. But anyway, she acted with them, and my father, who was an authority there, gave her a big part, which it was called Mrs. Persoff. And people who saw that in later years said it was a good production. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Wow, that was great as it was. And we were talking about fitting in and exploring the essence of what makes us the same. What we all have in common through not just your roles in TV and movies and plays, but in painting as well, because your true essence is what comes out.
I see what you mean. So when I was young, it wasn't by accident that I was an actor, because I said my father was an actor. And as I remember, as a 3-year-old, I loved my kindergarten teacher. I wanted her attention. And I couldn't get enough of her, so I got on the trike and went around in circles, smaller circles, until I fell down and pretended I was hurt. And she would come and pick me up and stroke me in. That was heaven. That was heaven. And the rest of my life, actually, as it turned out, was just a repetition of that. selling people a lie, which they took for truth. When you're on stage, you're telling them, you're pretending to be somebody that you're not. And if they accept it, then you're a successful actor. If they don't suspect it, you're out. So I had it from age 3.
Another way to say that, though, besides it's a lie, is that you see in others a way to connect. You see pieces of other people that you create into this puzzle that you portray in both your art, your sketches, and in your theater and film work. You're really such an interesting person. Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about is what happens as we age. It seems like we buy into this idea that we start slowing down or fading away, but you seem to keep looking for new passions and looking at life with a curious bent, looking for new challenges.
Yes. Yes.
So what is life? What is it like? What happens as we age?
Okay, I'll tell you. When I was about 16, 17, I read a book by Ben Hecht in which he writes his autobiography. And he starts with, I don't know why I should write my autobiography now and not later when it's all behind me. And he says, when it's all behind me, I may be all dead, because death is not something that occurs immediately, he said, this is Ben Hecht. He said, death starts when your knee begins to give, and your back and your head and your other parts sexually, you're dead. And slowly, slowly, slowly you die until the final death. But before that, there were deaths after death, after death, after death. And I always felt that this world is going to escape me. There's going to be a time when I won't be able to see the sky or the stars or the trees or nothing. So I better get to know where I am, and I better do what I can. And I also, later in life, felt that I wanted to leave something for the family, and that creativity, painting. My father was painting too. So you see, I got it from him. I got it from many sides, but it really wasn't my doing. It's something that I had to do. I had to do it.
Nehemiah, do you think about death?
Now, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth. My wife died about 7 months ago.
You were married 69 years. We're so sorry to hear that.
Shortly after she died, I happened to meet a young lady that just threw me off my feet. What was I going to tell you?
You were telling me about, losing, you were losing your wife, and I was asking you if you think about dying.
Oh, yes. Before I met her, after my wife died, I thought there was nothing to live for, because I loved her. 69 years we were together. And I met this lady that just knocked me out. And then I began to be very much concerned. She's a much younger woman, and I'm 102. How much more time do I have? 6 months? A year? A year and a half? A year and 3 days? Who knows? You don't know. And I suddenly began to feel, oh, shucks, I want to live. I want to live. And so today, I said, I have to forget about it, because who knows? It's the end, we start, when we're born, we head for dying. We die all the way from the day we're born. And I will die, and that's okay, fine. I've had my share, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. I could go today, fine, but I don't want to.
What a great answer. What an incredible answer. Isn't it interesting, too, Nehemiah, that people always tell you. They told you when you were 10, they probably told you when you were 20 and 30. Nehemiah, live for today. Live in the present. And
Yes.
I don't think we really know what that means until we're older. And then you're forced to really live in the present, and it can be a beautiful way to live.
Yes. Yes. Let me tell you something I'm reminded of. When I came to Brooklyn and I couldn't fit in with the people, I was the greenhorn. I was an object to laugh at. They laughed at me. I couldn't speak English. I discovered one day that if I go to the movies and I would put my dime down and come out after watching the show 3-4 times, go home and tell the story to my family, I would entertain them. And then I found that if I took it to the street and on the stoop to the house, these were all tenement houses, on the stoop, I would gather the people from my gang, the Jewish gang, the Russian gang, the Italian gang, all of the gangs around the neighborhood. If I would gather them and tell the stories, I could get some admiration, become become somebody they would respect. And I did. I used to tell the stories of the movies, and sometimes when I feel, because I had a sense of when I'm losing my audience, when I felt I was losing them, I would bring in a killing, a murder, a drowning, a tragedy, something to catch them again. And where was I?
You were talking about the kids in the neighborhood and trying to impress them.
Yes, that's right. So I was a storyteller. And I had that through all my years. And people,
you know, the other thing you are, Nikki, is a survivor. I mean,
yes.
you came to a new country, you know, and you haven't stopped either. Life isn't easy. You know, if we're lucky to live long enough, we're all going to suffer. We suffer heartbreak, sadness,
yes,
illness. So
absolutely.
how do we continue to enjoy life where it's not unusual to find people going through a pain?
Repeat your question, please.
You know, and I know these are hard ones, but it's not often we get to talk to someone who's 102 and has the wit and intelligence that you do. So, you know, I think it's like life isn't easy. You know, if we're lucky enough to live long, we're all going to suffer heartbreak and illness. So how do you continue to enjoy life where it's not unusual to experience pain?
I think that my purpose in life from the very beginning was the concern for my nation. I was very much concerned by it. When Hitler came in, I was so upset when he started killing Jews. He wanted to eliminate the Jewish people from the world. And I felt that I had to find a reason for me to deserve living on this world. And I thought I'd better be as good as I can. I better contribute something to prove that I am worthy of the life that was given me. And it was then that I decided that whatever I'm going to do in the end, I would do the best I can. And that's what happened. And the thing that keeps you going is also a feeling for other people, because you do want to help them. And I sometimes think that the purpose we're on in this world is to help others. And it's not easy. It's not always possible. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're hungry, and so you grab the piece of bread. But sometimes when you're full, you should give a little bit of your bread to others who don't have it. And that's what drove me.
It's such great advice, and it's great wisdom, and someone that you helped a lot. You're not just talking about it. Someone who you helped a lot, who adores you, is none other than Barbra Streisand. In fact, she chose you to play her father in the movie Yentl And she'll tell anyone who listens that she looks to you like a real father. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be, your relationship with Streisand.
When I got the job, I got it, and I had to work fast because I was doing an LA law in New York when I got the script. So I studied the script on the way over, and I could not get into the character. I could not get any feeling. I could not understand what the hell it was about. And so I was very worried. And the day before shooting, she invited me to her house. And she asked me, we sat across the table from each other with a glass of tea. She asked me about I'll get it.
You're with Streisand at her house because you're trying to find
the character.
Yeah.
I was very disturbed because I couldn't get into the part. So she started talking to me and tell me about her childhood and how at a year and a half her father died. She was an orphan and she missed having the father figure, and the problems she had to get into the business because she had a lot of problems too. And she said suddenly, let's read. And we started reading. And 3-4 lines into the reading, I began to tear. And I felt the role that I wanted was there. It was only on the way back to Los Angeles that I thought, how stupid can I be? The stories that she told me, where she was directing me. She was telling me these stories, the real stories, to involve me in her story, and I did. So that's, I think, the best kind of directing you can have is when you don't know that you're being directed. And Barbara did it.
And the best kind of acting you could ever. Go ahead.
When she got the award for a Lifetime Award, I was invited to speak to her. And I said to her, Barbara, at the end, because the speech I made was very maudling, maybe because I loved her. But at the end, I wanted to light it up a little bit. So I said, Barbara, for about 23 years, you've been like a real daughter to me. You never call, you never write.
You know, she's just one example, Nikki, of the people that love you, that think you know, and it's something to do with the way that you connect, that you understand, that you empathize. And I wanted to ask you a few questions about being at this age. What do you do to stay healthy? Did you eat a certain way? Were you an exercise guy? Did you drink or not drink? Or what's your secret?
Excuse me, I didn't get the crux of the question.
What do you do to stay healthy?
I live day to day. Each day brings its own excitement. Each day brings its own problems. Take it as it comes. Let it come. I'm ready. This morning I overslept. My friend Jim called me, so I got dressed in a hurry. Suddenly the buttons wouldn't button here. I was so much in a hurry. I combed my hair. You see, I didn't comb it great. I shaved. I put my glasses on. And I'm on the program now. And I'm having a great time. And I thank you for having me on the program, on the show.
Well, there's one thing about you that really bothers me. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you're 102 and you have much better hair than I do. What is it with life? Do you do any? Are you on like any special diets, or do you go to the gym and work out?
You happen to hit on a question. When I started, Kazan said to me, "You're very usable, but my hair was so kinky. I used to wear an afro in those days." And he said, you'll have a hard time getting jobs because your hair is kinky. And then so that's why there were so many times when I shaved my head, I wore a wig, I did this. And what was my point?
Oh, we had no point. We were talking. I think, the thing in Some Like It Hot, I just love that character when you're making that speech at the banquet of all the gangsters and and you're about to rub out the guys that are looking for Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. You had the bald head going, you had the look, the accent, man. That was so Nehemiah. Beautiful, beautiful role.
Let me tell you the story of how I got that role. I was directed in a movie by Charles Lederer, who turned out to be a great friend. He was friends with everybody in Hollywood. One day he was playing cards with Billy Wilder. And while playing the cards, Billy Wilder said, that son of a bitch, Edward G. Robinson, he was supposed to play a part here and he quit on me. So Charles said, that's no problem. Why don't you get Nehemiah Persoff? He'll do it. Who? Nehemiah Persoff. Never heard of him. Okay, go ahead, play your cards. No. Who? Take Nehemiah Persoff. I said, play your cards, darn it. Come on. I'm not going to play my cards. I'm going to give you he got the phone, gave it to me. You have the same agents as Mr. Persoff. Call him and ask him about Nicky. About who? Nicky Nehemiah. Nicky's my nickname. So we got on the phone. He said, hello, do you know this guy? His name is, what was his name? Nehemiah. He knew, oh, you mean Nicky. Nicky. He said, yeah, he'd be great in the role. He then went and talked with Tony Curtis, who was a student in school with me, in acting school. And Tony said, great, he'd be wonderful. And then Jack Lemmon gave me a good one. So he hired me without really knowing me. I met him the next day and he said to me, he asked one question, would you shave your head? I said, sure. So that was it. That's the way I got the role. And I was going to make a point about why I was telling you this story. Well,
no, it was because I enjoyed it so much. And I think that's such a great role.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I came
funny.
to rehearse without much opportunity to know the script, but I wanted to get into the role. And I came out, as you'll see when you see the role, I came out walking, and there were about 30 extras, gangsters sitting around me. And as I walked in, try to be the gangster, try to be tough, try to be not me, but try to be the other guy. I hear somebody and I say, who the hell is he? I thought that Edward G. Robinson was supposed to play the role. When I heard that, I thought, here's my opportunity to become a real gangster. And I turned around and I said, what did you say? He said, I thought it was Edward G. Robinson going to do that role. I said, do you know Robinson? He says, no, I never know, but I know who he is. You know who I am? No, I don't. Then just get yourself the hell out of this seat, okay? Okay? And that's in front of all the gangsters. And I asked the AD to get him out of there, and Billy Wilder suddenly came in. He said to the guy, get out of there, you're interfering with my star. They took him out, they threw him out, and I was the gangster. Right there, I was the boss. And from then on, it was fun.
It's such a great character, folks. Look for the movie Some Like It Hot. You'll love the whole movie. But Nicky steals the scene away from Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe, if you can believe it. He just steals that movie. You know what I wanted to ask you as we start to wind down here, because of your age. We often ask people, because we don't live in the past. You don't live in the past. We have a good time talking about it, but you're very involved in your play and your book and your art and your life. I wanted to ask you at this point, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I can't allow myself to look forward to a lot, but I'll tell you what I am looking forward to. I've written a play. And I met a guy who does movies. He has cameras and so forth. He has enough wherewithal to do a film. I showed him my play and he said, let's write a screenplay. Let's make it a screenplay instead of a play on the stage. And so I'm working with him on that. Mostly I'm working by myself because he and I are not all together. on the same wavelength. So
What's
I'm
the
working
story
on,
about, Nehemiah?
Pardon?
What's the story about?
Basically, it's a story of a dreamer. You know what a dreamer is? A Mexican that's brought, say a Mexican, anybody from another country who's brought here as a child but never becomes a citizen and is
Right, the immigrant experience.
Yes, and is deprived of every right that a citizenship would give him because he's not a citizen. And so this is a story of a beautiful Latino girl who's trying to find a way to earn her citizenship because she wants the right to do this, to speak as an American. And that's the story.
What an incredible project. I sure hope this comes together.
I do
hope you
too. I'd like that before I die. I'd like that.
We sure need it.
That's the reason why I'm rushing through this, because who knows? He's over there. Get out. Get away.
Yeah, don't let him in.
Get out. Who wants you? Who called you? Go home.
There's 102 and there's still plenty for you to do. I'm going to ask you one more question, and it's a hard one.
Sure.
But I think you'll do pretty well.
Sure.
From all you've seen and experienced, what do you wish we understood about life?
Be good. Be kind. Because those are the things that support you. There's no sense in living, actually, if you're not going to help your family, your friends. I'm so happy with my family, my children, my 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, and my wife. She was fantastic. She is the one who kept my feet on earth, because every time my name would be in the papers and there'd be some praise, I'd start taking over. She'd say, shh. She'd pull me by the sleeve, put me down, and tell me that I also, like others, have to eat every day. I have to sleep. I have to dress. I'm just a person. And if I lose myself in a movie personality, if I become a star, I lose contact with myself. Then who are you? Then who are you doing this for? What's the whole point if you're not yourself? If you're somebody else, who are you? I have to thank her for that. She was extraordinary. She was just an honest woman. She was born in a small town in Israel, a very small town. And I was working at the time on Broadway with all of the city that never sleeps. And here I met this girl with a city that's never awake. It's a little 1-block town. So she had her behavior problems, and I had my behavior problems. I was with a bunch of stars that we all hugged and kissed, and that's the way it is with actors. And she never accepted. One time when I brought her here, we went to a party at the Actors Studio, and Darren McGavin's wife sat on my lap. And she looked at my wife. My wife was that happy about it. So she said to her, "Do you mind?" My wife said, "Yes, I mind. I mind very much." She got up. Garen's wife got up. But my wife never changed. She was always like that. She always remained the simple, small town lady, always honest. I learned from her, as you learn from all people. I learned from you. You're a wonderful, wonderful host. Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, I don't like the idea of letting you go. I'd love for us to keep going on, because, you kind of have in your head that you hope it's going to be an interesting interview and this person's going to be interesting, but I never expected anyone as compelling, as charming as you are. And I think the reason is because you're comfortable in your own skin now. That little kid from Jerusalem who was bewildered by where he was and what he was supposed to do found his path ultimately by being who you were, being who you are, being true to yourself and everybody else. Nehemiah, you're amazing. You're a gift to us all. A great guest, a cool dude, And remember, folks, his book is fantastic. Let's see if we can make this guy a let's add best-selling author to his amazing resume. The book is fantastic. You can get it just about anywhere. I was looking at it on Kindle. I think it was under $10. Why not? Because there's so many great anecdotes and stories about acting, about life, about being a young person in a new country, about his story. You can get it just about anywhere. Amazon. It's called The Many Faces of Nehemiah. Our thanks to the incredible Nehemiah Persoff, 102, still curious, still relevant, still wanting to be part of everything, and still compassionate enough to want to make a difference. So what can we learn? What's the point of this? It's that this is what life can be like at 102. And that to some degree, we do control our destiny. At least we can increase our chances of living a full and vibrant life by making decent choices, by starting today. Stay active, eat right, get your sleep, figure out ways to handle stress, and be ready to deal with the tough times with strength and attitude. And just as important as any, always look for ways to make a difference in the lives of others, whatever that means to you. Nehemiah Persoff shows us you can be 102 and you can be sharp, you can be involved, and you can be an inspiration. What a life, what a mensch, and what a future we can all reach for if we can just look for ways to put a little bit of Nehemiah in our own lives. It's a gift to us all just to be able to have a conversation with him and get some insight into, well, you hear the term a lot, but what a life well lived really looks like. So listen, as we continue to find ways to inspire, ways to connect, and ways to engage, we want you to be sure to click like on the Growing Bolder Facebook page, but that's just a fraction of what we have to offer you. And please check out our website, growingbolder.com, for episodes of our TV show. Sign up for our free insider newsletter, our digital digest, our podcast, radio shows, for limitless life-changing interviews like the one we just had. Tools and resources to help you make this the best time of your life. There's no other place like Growing Bolder, and there's nobody out there quite like you. So for now, I'm Bill Schaefer, and we'll leave you with this. We get one chance at life. Let's make it the best we can, because that's Growing Bolder.